Hi, folks, and welcome to Off the Page. This is a series that I wanted to start over a year ago, and my first guest is here. Except I was the delay. Um, Doctor, it's Doctor, correct?
Yeah,
Doctor,
no one uses that, but I'm glad, nice to hear it now and again.
Yeah, you earned it. Doctor Brad Balukjian
Yeah.
has been published in several magazines and websites. He is the author of two books, The Wax Pack, which is how I discovered him, and of course, The Six Pack, which is coming out next week in bookstores, online, anywhere you can get books. You can get The Six Pack, and we're going to discuss that one today. He is also teaches natural history and sustainability program at Merritt College. So, welcome, sir.
Yeah, there's not a lot of natural overlap maybe between natural history, professional wrestling, and 1980s baseball cards, but I guess I do my best to bring those things together.
You do fine. I heard you in an interview say, I really want to write about all the insects I found on Tahiti, but that book's not going to fly off the shelves yet. Yet.
Yeah,
You're building that fan base.
I got to get some more juice first, right? Then I can just say, I'm going to force you all to read about Tahitian insects.
Well, I mean, you've got the baseball fans hooked, and pretty soon you're going to have all the wrestling fans hooked. You're building it. You're building it. You go, insects. They go, insects. Insects.
It's all a giant strategy, just the bait and switch to get everyone to follow entomology. That's right.
It's like I don't know if you've ever seen Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage.
I've not.
Oh my God. He's trying to get, do you know the premise?
No.
Okay. He just happens to be in everyone's dream. It's one of those weird movies. But he's a professor and he studies like ants, and he's wanting to get this ant thing public. But no one wants to hear about the ant thing. They want to hear about why he's in everyone's dream. So
is it a good movie?
It was fun. It was fun. Yeah, it's one of those like, the weird kind of weird scenario movies that aren't explained, but I enjoy those.
Nicolas Cage has an interesting filmography, right?
Yes, he does. Some bad, some good. I put this one in the good basket.
Okay.
We all agreed it was good. We watched it recently, so good stuff. I got introduced to you 3 years ago. My brother, for Christmas, he always gave me a baseball book. I'm a big baseball fan. And gave me baseball books on interesting stories. Well, this year I opened it up, and it's the Wax Pack. And the thing that got me, because I was like, oh, I knew instantly what pack of cards you were mimicking on the cover. Very smart. Who did this cover? It made it wax like the packs.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
Whose idea was that?
University of Nebraska Press. It was my idea to have the book look like a pack, but then they just ran with it, and they down to the level of the paper, like you said.
That was brilliant. You hand that to someone already visually. I knew exactly what this book was about before even cracking it open. I was like, oh, this is about 86 tops. Yeah, that's all I knew. Because I liked it. That was my favorite set, by the way.
I actually I kind of wanted to have you probably couldn't do this for health reasons to have it be real, but even like facsimile gum pasted into the inside cover, right? Or even even a little drawing that would have been perfect.
The bookmark should have been the gum. There you go. That you could have had, and do not eat on it.
Didn't have the budget to do it, but that would have been
That's okay. Safe. Well, what they did with the wax cover, the moment you feel it, feels like you're holding a pack of cards. Yeah. That's pretty brilliant, because already it's about your cover design. But I never thought about texture-wise feeling a book and automatically being intrigued for what's in. I looked at him and said, I don't know what this is about. I have an idea, but already this is one of my favorite books. I'm telling you right now. And I read it. I thought it was amazing, folks. I've talked about this on one of my podcasts, where you opened up a pack of cards. You said, I'm going to visit everyone here.
Yeah.
And you were successful for the most part. And even when you weren't, it's like one of the best I Love Lucy episodes never made, as you pose to get into the country club. It's just, I'll leave it up. I really want people to read it, but it's great. And I'm laughing. I'm loving it. As a baseball fan, it connected with me. But then I started realizing something, and we'll talk about this, of course, when we get the six pack too. But you also started making the human connection, meaning talking about the baseball players just as regular people.
Yeah.
And they have the same issues, they have the same wants, desires, losses, regrets that we do. And of course, you're tying it into your personal life as you're walking along this path too, which I thought was just brilliant. I
Well,
thought it was
thank you.
brilliant because a non-baseball fan, and I suggested, I said, hey, if you don't like baseball, this book is for you. I don't. That was your intention the whole time.
Yeah, no, you nailed it in terms of what I wanted to get across in these books, which is really the humanity of these former athletes, former wrestlers. When I was trying to get a contract for the Wax Pack, I was told every possible reason, why it wouldn't work and why I should do it a different way and make it more about baseball and not about myself, or not about, these sort of non-baseball issues. And I'm glad I stuck to my guns, because that's what I was always wanted to do, was really humanize these characters, whether they're wrestlers or baseball players. We know them as these very two-dimensional type characters. They occupy a part of our lives that is about entertaining us. We know their statistics. We know them as these figures that win or lose games or win or lose matches. But I think we don't often relate to them, or we don't think of them as like our peers or as people that are going through the same things we're going through, right? It's like sports is to a large degree about escapism. And this book, or both of these books, I think, force you to not escape, right? Or to realize that the people that are entertaining us are real people that are dealing with the same things we do, just like you said. And so, to me, that actually ultimately brings us all closer together. I think it maybe it demystifies some of that heroism, but that heroism is already kind of an unrealistic thing to begin with.
It is, and it's automatically in our minds as we're watching these people on TV perform athletically or in the ring or whatnot. And they have this like until I was in my mid-30s, I still thought of every baseball player was an adult, like older than me.
Right.
Until I started realizing, hold on, I'm the old person in MLB now. And I remember just sitting there realizing it while watching a game with my brother. Went, do you realize we're older than most of this roster now? I said, I just realized this because I kept looking at them as the older kids that were just having the best time ever. And I still felt, and that wasn't the reality. And still in my mind, I feel like, no, these guys are older than, no, but we put them on such a plateau. They just seem like,
well, also
they're still immortal to us.
I still think it's kind of weird. You go to a game and how many people are wearing the jerseys of players with the names on the back. And it's like, when you really step back and think about what that is, it's like you're a grown person, grown man, grown woman, wearing a shirt with some stranger's name on your back because you like them that much, right? Which is really kind of strange.
And they haven't played in decades, says my wife when she says, why does it say pizza on the? It's Piazza. Mike Piazza. Come on, greatest catcher ever. Get out of here.
And it's like, there's a lot more overlap between the sports and the comic, kind of fantasy comic, world, science fiction world than you realize, because, people in the old days, the jocks might kind of look down at the nerds and say like, oh, you guys, you do your cosplay and you dress up. But meanwhile, the jock is really doing the same thing when he's wearing the jersey of another player. He's wearing a costume.
Yeah. It's like trick or treat all over again. We're just wearing different jerseys now. But I also loved, and I said this in my podcast here, but you looked at a lot of these, what we call commons, the cards that weren't stars were related to as commons, but there were characters that you decided, man, I like this dude's name because of his look, because of his name, because of Raleigh Finger's mustache. There was And see, I mean, you were hitting every nerve on me because my brother was a big Deion James fan. No one knows Deion James, and that was
it's a great name from the 80s.
It's a great name from the 80s, and he collected every card up until when he left. I was only tried and true for Mets fans. Every Mets card. I love the Mets. Jesse Orosco, Tim Huddle. My brother just got me a Tim Huddle autograph card for my birthday, for my birthday last year. And I was like, yes, because it was 86. I'm going to replace it with my collection there with the autograph version. But the thing is, though, all these little random ones, we used to hate when we got so-and-so because he had the big, thick 80s glasses. That meant he was a nerd, and we didn't want that guy. You chuck him, or, we just remember people we really like Jose Cruz from the Astros. We thought if you were to say, name one Astro that's going to be a future Hall of Famer 30 years from now, everyone will know. I'll say Jose Cruz all day long, not Nolan Ryan, who was also on that team at the time.
Yeah. I don't think that and so much of that is because of baseball cards. I don't think that young kids now who are baseball fans have that same kind of relationship with the names and the players, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't have young kids, but it doesn't seem like we all can identify with these 86, 87, 88 Topps cards that we'll never forget because they were just so, memorable for us.
Yeah, and since you're on the phone, since you have the commissioner's number on speed dial on your cell phone, maybe you could ask him if he could talk to Topps and kind of reinvigorate the hobby again. Because I know it's big in digital world, but it's not as it was back. Not that it'll, a hobby's coming, phases come. The comic book phase, wrestling has had ups and downs too.
The word hobby is not. I mean, you're right. They're supposed to be. It was a hobby. Now it's a. I mean, baseball cards were really popular, but it's a business. It's like trading stocks.
It's grabbing, opening the pack just to get that autograph, just to get that single, and then the commons, the cards that I love to collect to make my own set. I don't want to buy a factory set. The joy was going to the store and going through all the little commons and checking the backs. You weren't checking the front. You're number 79. I need 79. 142, 142, 142. You didn't care who it was. You were just trying to complete sets. That aspect of collecting is gone, and it's a shame. And again, that's another. I'll have you back, and we'll talk about the problems with Topps. But I will get back into this. The Wax Pack was not supposed to be your first book.
Right. That's right.
It was supposed to be this book.
Well, it was supposed to be an Iron Sheik biography in 2005.
An Iron Sheik biography. Yes, it was an Iron Sheik biography. You put that one on the back burner. You explain why, and you went with Wax Pack first. So my question is, now you have one in the can, one successful, book, out there. What did you learn while writing book number 2?
What did I learn while writing the 6-pack?
Yes. Well, like writing wise, okay, here's some things I did from the first book that I want to do better. Or was there anything like that?
Yeah, well, I think the 6-pack is I think it was a harder book to write. So the Wax Pack was not easy either, but the Wax Pack is chronologically constrained, right? It's basically there, and it really goes day by day for like 49 days of my road trip in 2015 to find all these guys in the pack. And so it's very much, there's a couple of little flashbacks here and there, but it's pretty much like the story of that trip. Right. Whereas the 6-pack was, although it was also a road trip book, it was more ambitious in that it was not as constrained by the calendar, but it was not only trying to tell the story of these 6 or 7 WWF wrestlers from the 80s, but also trying to tell some of the history of professional wrestling, like where does wrestling come from? How did it start? And really get into some of the depth of the research around, how did the WWF expand to become a big company, and going more in depth, I would say, into some of these issues that came up as I did the research, whether that was like wrestlers being classified as independent contractors, or whether that was the whole backstory of why the U.S. and Iran became geopolitical enemies and why the hostage crisis happened. And all of that is relevant historical context for explaining why the Iron Sheik was a bad guy and why Americans hated him just because he was from Iran, right? But adding some of the backstory to just give some complexity and nuance to what 40 years ago was a very simplistic formula, which was, America good, Iran bad.
Right. And we've seen that throughout the. I mean, Rocky for crying out loud is the poster child for USA good, Russia bad. It's so good for that reason. But the thing is, when you write the six pack here, you took a moment in time that was probably one of the Iron Sheik's highest moments, right? Yeah. But also, it was on the cusp of what would blow up and forever change the face of wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the rise of Vince McMahon Jr.'s WWF.
Yeah.
This is the prequel. This is what set things up for the arrival of the chosen one, Hulk Hogan. They had to give him that rival Iron Sheik. From that matchup, right before it was pre-Hogan era, you took out of the 16-man roster, you took 6 names.
Yeah.
And that's your six pack that you went around to try to get interviews of. You went very bold and went for, the Hulkster himself too, which I can't wait to talk about in a minute. But the thing is, you grew up as an Iron Sheik fan. So did my co-host on my podcast, Wes. He's a big Iron Sheik fan. He's so excited about your book.
Love that.
Because he thought he was the only Iron Sheik fan. I mean, true Iron Sheik fan.
Yeah, there were 2 of us in 1985.
Yeah. No one else.
Not even the Iron Sheik's wife was cheering for him.
Yeah. Yeah, you boo the heels back then. That was no one was what was it called? Smart, smart mark there. No, not many people understood how it worked. But you were both Iron Sheik fans. And then later on in life, after it, you in the mid 2000s, 2005, I believe you say it is. Yeah. You got to actually work with and as one of the, what would you say, assistants for Iron Sheik? What was the actual title?
Oh, I mean, I met him by helping out with a show, an autograph signing. That's how.
Okay, so you were tied to the convention, not to him.
Well, I
through him through the convention though.
I got to know his agent, and then his agent introduced me to him, and then he and I established our own friendship.
Oh, and then that's how you got in with the Iron Sheik.
Yeah.
See, stalking has its benefits. There you go.
It's pretty much true. We can use all the euphemisms we want. That's kind of what happened.
But the thing is, I love it because then you show how Iron Sheik was not only, and a lot of these guys, they put on a face, but they're really generally seriously nice guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice guys, but he's also a well-respected man in the business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, he had this whole backstory before he was the Iron Sheik, where he was helping to coach the U.S. Greco-Roman Olympic team. And one of the things I'm proud of in the book is that I went and found a bunch of people that knew him before he was the Iron Sheik. So when he came to the U.S. in 1969, and he came and helped coach in Minnesota and was really instrumental in a couple of these guys becoming Olympic wrestlers. All of that, before the Iron Sheik was even a glimmer in his eye as a character.
Yeah, and his coach was 90-something.
I found his coach who's 94 years old.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Him about that moment when the Iron Sheik landed at the Minneapolis airport, not speaking a word of English, and all he knew was the name of this guy, Alan Rice. And Iron Sheik was literally, his real name is Khosrow Vaziri, was wandering around the airport in Minneapolis just saying Alan Rice to everybody until someone recognized the name and got called Alan Rice. And they're like, hey, there's a weird Iranian here that's wandering around saying your name. I mean, that's your name. What a crazy introduction. His whole game plan coming to the U.S. was writing down the name Alan Rice and getting to Minnesota,
grabbing a backpack and then heading to the U.S. I mean, in a time before pre-internet,
pre-cable TV. I mean, this is 1969. Yeah. This is, the whole world.
That's insane. That's insane to think about. And that's the thing that if you're a wrestling fan, you're going to find a lot of interesting new perspectives from this book that I've not seen before, because I'm almost positive you've seen the same documentaries as I have. You've
Right.
read the same autobiographies and, specials, and, this book written by so and so about this person. You've read all those, and you're like, okay, how can I present a new perspective on this? And one of the things you do is give Iron Sheik Alive his backstory there,
Yeah.
about who he was, the man, his family, which you are friends with.
Yeah.
And it's like a fresh perspective of things I have never read. Now on the podcast, we did a lot of reviews. Wes, my co-host, big wrestling fan, made me read like 2 boxes worth of autobiographies and stacks of it. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll read them all. And I graded them on an honest scale of which ones I liked and which ones I didn't. So, and a lot of times you hear some of the same stories and the same anecdotes but with yours, it's fresh new perspective. How hard is that to come by?
Well, I think it's all about, I mean, thank you. That is a nice compliment. I think it's all about the degree of research that you do and finding those people that have not spoken before, right? So a lot of times the same stories are told by the same people over and over again, as you said. But for me, it was like, okay, if I've heard about Alan Rice, who was the Iron Sheik's coach, but none of these accounts ever actually involve
No
going
one's
and
talked
talking
to
to
him.
Rice, right? So
I thought he was dead.
yeah,
I had no idea when you said
and
you
it's
tried to.
and it's, I mean, it's not
I'm doing the
easy,
math in my head, going, how old? And then you say he's 94. I'm going, shut up.
right? So you're calling this guy who, you try this phone number, you get out of public records, and it's disconnected. So you text this person, and they don't know, and they, it's being a detective, right? To even find people, then you have to try to convince them to talk to you. Then you have to travel to these places to go meet. I mean, I'm a big in person. I don't want to write a book from my couch, so I'm in my car and I drive tens of thousands of miles to find people. Yeah. And that's also, one, I think when you're in person, it makes for just a better interview. People are more forthcoming, and 2, it makes for you have the opportunity to describe your surroundings and your environment. And for a reader, I'm always aware of the reader's experience, right? Like I want to show the reader, I want to paint a picture of here's where we were. And so like take an example, like Tony Atlas, who I interview, there's a scene where me and him are working out at the YMCA together. Then we're at the Hilton, having a drink. Then we're at a restaurant. Then we're at the assisted living place where his wife is. Then we're in the car. And so by varying the scenes, it makes it much fresher for the reader. And I when I write, I think very much the way that I think a movie producer would think. I think in terms of scenes, like each chapter having 5 to 8 scenes in it.
Yeah, every good book has a background and sets around the background setup. You go through Tony Atlas's old neighborhood. You discuss that. You discuss what it was. You interview some of their friends too from that time, who they were, what they were like. Getting Tony Atlas's story of how things were in his childhood, and probably the more true story from one of his friends about what happened. Right. But and then finally, when you get to interview him, like you said, all the surroundings, what's going on, what's he doing, you're getting to see the moment there. And in our mind, it's just like we're there with you, watching it through your eyes. I really did feel like that. I really get immersed. That's how good fictional books are written.
Right. And
that's exactly from your perspective that makes it feel it's so easy to read.
That's the novelistic style. When I was trained in magazine journalism, we were taught we call it creative nonfiction, right? You're mimicking the same techniques that are used in fiction. Like you're relying on dialogue, on scene setting and status conveying detail. You're looking at point of view. So you have these different techniques that are the same things, as you said, that are used in fiction, but applying it to nonfiction.
And therein lies the other reason why I think, and I have a lot of big wrestling fans that watch the channel and everything. And so for that reason, that's one reason. But the people who don't like wrestling, once again, just like the Wax Pack, because you're describing these people, it's not in a wrestling arena most time. They don't get in the ring. You're talking about them at home, who they are as humans. for instance, I'm using I don't want to spoil too much of the book, but Tony Atlas going to visit his wife,
Right.
And how he cares about how he talks to her and everything. That's just a human being. That's not Tony Atlas, the great star of the early.
And the if you notice, each chapter is titled as the wrestler stage name versus the real name, right? So Anthony White versus Tony Atlas, or Terry Bollea versus Hulk Hogan. And I did that because really it's about each of these guys battling themselves, right? It's about how much do they become their character. And that is the main theme that I try to explore in the book, is myth versus reality and identity, and most of these guys becoming what was that? Fireworks just went off behind me.
Did I do that?
I don't know, maybe. I don't think I did it.
I didn't do it. I wasn't touching anything. Maybe you triggered something on here. I don't know. I didn't, but you know what? I see fireworks going off when you talk about it. So I mean, I didn't notice anything different, I guess. But
yeah, so that is where does Tony Atlas end and Anthony White begins? That's kind of the question.
But then again, for the non-wrestling fan, that's another aspect that they can get in and you can get interested in this book, and just by saying, wow, okay, I don't know that much about wrestling, Matt, would I enjoy? Yeah, I think you would, because of that, because you can relate to some of these people, hear some of their stories, feel for some of these people, understand what I mean. Like, oh my goodness, Iron Sheik alone went through some tough times. You were there for those tough times. And I kind of want, and a lot of people know him from his social media days,
right?
Ranting on Twitter. He had that was when y'all had a little bit of a break. The relationship went a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
I liked your story.
You can call a death threat a break. Yeah.
It was a death threat. It was a gun. It was goodbye with a gun.
Multiple choice. It was a gun, knife, or just breaking my leg, which,
Oh, okay. Just breaking your leg.
Yeah.
So you had one of this temper, and you felt that some of this in your book, you hinted that you felt some of this was kind of exaggerated.
Yeah.
From his Twitter, exaggerate, like maybe the people handling or who were around him at the time were kind of a bad influence, push him in a different direction than who he was.
Well, I think that at that point in the mid 2000s, I don't think anyone realized, myself included, just how horribly devastated. I mean, how much his oldest daughter's murder, which is such a tragedy,
right,
really sent him into a tailspin. So that, adding on to the years of his body breaking down and the hard drug addiction, he was in such a vulnerable, dark place. And I think that when doing these shoot interviews, and he made a few comments that were fueled, I'm sure, by all the substance abuse, and people just loved it, right? And so it's like these wrestlers, their whole careers are about getting over, being popular with the fans. And so no matter what the context, if they see themselves getting over, they want to do more of that. And so people kept putting him in a position to perform, and he was getting the notoriety and getting the attention. And so I think he just, at his core, Khosrow Vaziri is a pretty quiet, someone very concerned with propriety and manners and all of, which is why this drug-addled version of him was so,
over the top
for his kids and his wife to accept, because they knew that this is not really who he is. And it just got so bad that, his wife moved out or kicked him out, and they separated. And, he was in a really bad spot there. But I think that whole period, I never liked to see the Howard Stern stuff and all of that. It seemed like he was being, wound up like a little toy and paraded around.
Yeah. More of everyone laughing at him than with him.
Yeah. And I think, he's there's a lot more to him and his story than that was becoming his lasting legacy, and that's not what I think it should be.
Well, I felt, and I could tell how you're writing that. You're writing that from your perspective as his friend.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of care in that. And that's another reason why I think even non wrestling fans would love this, because it's a great story. And in fact, by the way, obviously Brad does not die, get his leg snapped off or anything. That you actually get to make up at the end. That was one of my favorite scenes in the book. Actually,
Right.
see, I'm talking about scenes like it's a movie, because you write that way. And but I loved that you did. There was that moment of closure that he was in, but before he passed away, that he seemed to be in a good spot.
Yeah.
Things are better with his wife. He's settled down. He's come out clean. How relieved were you to kind of have that when that situation went down? You got to meet him, everything. I mean, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, I was really, I'd heard that he was cleaned up. He had cleaned up, but that he was also, his health was starting to fail. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect. And I couldn't have asked for a better full circle ending. I mean, it was really kind of surreal that after that, then a week after I turned in the book in June of 2023. And I wrote this thing at a faster rate than I would have liked to. I mean, I wrote a lot of it in just like 5 or 6 months. And so I was exhausted, looking forward to a nice break. And like a week after I turned it in, I get a text from his daughter saying that he just passed away. And that was trippy. And
Hence, there's an epilogue to your book where
right.
It's another full chapter. So
Then
you have to wait after the credits, folks. There's a stinger at the end of this, a full chapter where you go to the funeral, and even there, you have lots of stories to share and how the funeral went down. And it's funny because after reading it, I had to watch it because it was streaming, and I never saw it when it happened. But as you're describing, I said, I gotta watch this now.
So is that available like still online?
I don't. I think I found it on YouTube.
Okay.
The live stream of it.
Yeah. They were live streaming it. Yeah.
When you described, I said, I've got to watch this.
Yeah.
And I found it, and it's so great because watching that, and that's what got me to watch that thing.
Yeah.
I watched it, but I was like, wow. And of course, here I am going, where is he? Where is he? I know he's
right.
But you finally get to talk to Sergeant Slaughter, at least to say hello.
Yeah. That was crazy that, I spend this whole chapter going to his house and knocking on his door. And and I think I've struck out. And then the only wrestler to show up at the funeral is in fact Sergeant Slaughter,
which was his closest friend, I believe, at the time. During the years, they had this big rivalry, and then of course team up later on. But because that was the USA, Iran conflict, was Sergeant Slaughter, USA, owned the G.I. Joe figure, and so they had a lot of good matches, a lot of good moments together. Sheik trusted Bob a lot, and that was a good relationship. You write about that in the book as well.
Right.
That close relationship. There's a lot going on in this. You also write about the mighty Hulkster as you attempt to go. I'm doing a little spoilers from the book here, but you attempt to go to his karaoke night at his club in Tampa, right?
In Clearwater, yeah.
Oh, Clearwater, yeah, Clearwater,
near Tampa, yeah,
near Tampa. And it's karaoke night, and the Hulkster shows up. And if you're doing karaoke, he comes up, shakes your hand, takes a picture, and moves on.
Right.
And you're there sitting there going, do I? This is great. You're thinking, is it worth it? You're like, no, because I got to do karaoke. But I want to know. There's two things I got to know here.
Yeah.
You left me hanging on this chapter, and I wasn't happy about it.
Okay.
So first off, if you sing karaoke, what is the song that gets played? What are you singing?
I was going to do Pat Benatar's "Hit Me with Your Best Shot."
My go-to is Guns N' Roses every time. But that's a great one. I love it. All right. So second one, the chapter just ends. And I wanted to know, you cut to the next scene. did you say hello? Did you talk to him? Did you respect his space? I don't know what happened.
Right. Well, I don't think so. In that scenario, he's up on stage. So
Right.
I
But
would
he's
have
sitting
had,
off to the side.
yeah, but it was set up in a way that like I would have caused a scene unless I was going to wait all night until it ended and then like try to grab
Okay.
him on the way out. But he was there with his girlfriend. And I mean, I think so. One of the things that I've noticed is that my own aging process is being reflected in these books, right? Where probably if this was the Wax Pack, I would have probably done something like that. But in the Wax
Yeah.
Pack, I also like passed out on the side of the freeway, and there was a lot more in the Wax Pack about my own personal life in terms of my dating and all that. And
Yep.
so that's another difference between the books you were asking about earlier, is that I knew that this book was not going to have quite as much of that memoir aspect for me, because it just wasn't as relevant. And so I had this extra real estate in this book that I was like, okay, well, what I'm going to do with that extra space is go, deeper into some of these threads around wrestling and these guys' backstories. So while there is plenty of me in the book, it's not quite as much of my story.
Well, yeah, and here's the deal. You're right. It didn't have to be because we already I felt like I'm reading Alan Quartermain and, well, for anyone else, Indiana Jones, let's say. And in this situation, now we've gotten to know a little bit about your personal background and everything. So we already know who you are. Move
Yeah.
into the six pack. Not that we don't get to see you. In fact, I'll tell you this. About halfway through, I stopped reading. I told my wife this. I said, it's so weird because here I am reading about a guy who I have called Mr. Baseball for years because I see you as the baseball cap loving. You know every team, you know every game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who was pitching during that game? What happened? You have all these statistics. Yet you're also a man who spent months, weeks, years on Tahiti finding 17 different insects.
Right.
It's the same guy here. And
Right.
then because I think everyone sees us, and you did a big tour on Wax Pack, and then everyone asked the same question. Hey, what's the next pack of baseball cards you opening? Or what's the next sports you're doing? And you explicitly said in the novel that if you did another one, it would be something different.
Yeah.
And I'm screaming, guys, read the rest of the novel. There's something at the end there for you. But the thing is, though, you get known as the baseball guy. That's not a bad thing either, because that's like I prior to this us going live, you're like a rock star to me because of all the baseball people you've gotten to see, meet, and know. But I'm reading this, I'm realizing, oh wow, there's a totally new version. There's a totally new hobby, and this is stupid because we all have several hobbies. We're not just defined by one hobby. What your major was in college is not how you're defined. What your favorite sport is not how you're defined. I'm now reading a book about a guy who loved wrestling, grew up with wrestling, gave himself his own wrestling name, unfortunately retired after the first day. Come on, dude. Now, that was one of my favorite chapters when you went into the ring to take some bumps.
Yeah, I'd always wanted to do that. Like, what does it actually feel like to take a bump? And it's like, oh, okay, now I know. Yeah, I won't be taking any more bumps.
Yeah. What was your name again? You said
exciting.
Exciting. Yeah, exciting, Brad. I was like, yeah. We used to do all that stuff back in the day, the backyard wrestling, as it became later known as. I have maybe one VHS tape. I don't know. I know we still have all of the champions from those old 90s days. We all have our cardboard belts still in our trunks of our cars to this day. So anytime, anywhere, someone can challenge me. Right now, I'm the current hardcore and world champion. And God forbid anyone challenge me to a hardcore, because if you think I'm taking a bump off of a ladder again, you're nuts. I'll just forfeit. I'll tap out at this point. So I thought that was great. But here I am reading about a totally different person now who loves wrestling. And shame on me, because I was thinking, you know what? I had you bottled like a lot of other people did as just the baseball guy. And I thought for that reason, I got to see a different love, a different fandom from you, which I thought was awesome. And I wanted to know what other hobbies, because now already you've already done another interview earlier today, but already you're getting asked, so what's the next wrestling
Yeah.
book? But the thing is, that's a compliment. Baseball fans want you to write more
Right.
about the sport that they love. Wrestling fans, once you read this, folks, you're going to want to know more. And
Right.
you have more, you've said that, but you want to do something different. What are your other hobbies?
Right. Well, when I was about 8 or 10 years old, the four things I loved were wrestling, baseball, Star Wars, and islands. And so, if there was a way to do something, Star Wars related or island, insects, islands, nature, biology, that's more of a stretch than what I've been doing, right? But something along those lines, could be a possibility. Certainly, like my wheelhouse is pre-internet, 80s, 90s, Generation X ish sports nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing I'm doing in the shorter term is the Brad Pack website, where I'm going to be having all this bonus material that I've collected from the research, like all audio from interviews that I have, and deleted scenes, kind of like the special features you would have on a DVD for the book. Plus, there are no pictures in the book, so I have all these pictures that I want to share.
Nice.
And then to be able to create new content, so to be able to do interviews with other former athletes or wrestlers, so I don't have to only do it in the context of a book, although I would like to write more of these types of stories as well. So nothing book, there's no book immediately like holstered, but all these things are things I'm thinking about. And as you said, I have a lot of wide ranging interests.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. One of your interests is also traveling. You like to be a road warrior, a true road warrior, as you're wheeling, dealing, even on your website, Balukjian.com. That's not the Brad Pack, is
Well,
it? Is that the
it's the
Brad Pack?
same site. Yeah.
Okay, all right, same site there. You're on your I'm gonna call it web blog. I don't know what to call it, but
Yeah.
you're documenting all the places you've been to. Utah recently. I see a tent. Did you camp out?
Yeah. I camped out in Glen Canyon, which is kind of near the Grand Canyon. Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know, you grew up in New Jersey, right? No, wait, no, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Yeah.
Rhode Island,
That's where I am
and
right now.
then in Rhode Island, you've been in Oakland.
Yeah.
Okay. And so everywhere in between, it seems like you just packed up not an RV, but a
Ford Fusion.
Ford Fusion,
Yeah.
and you've seen all 50 states.
Yeah, well, I did. I packed up my life in Oakland. I officially moved last month, and I'm back in Rhode Island. But I'm going to be doing the digital nomad thing for a while, and because I can work remotely. And yeah, I think I've always described myself first and foremost as a travel writer, not a sports writer. Or, and if you really think about my style of writing, it's really travel writing. It's
Right.
It's dynamic, it's kinetic, it's me in different environments, on the move, meeting people, describing environments. And my first job out of college was working at a travel magazine called Islands Magazine. So that's I think that's where I got my foundation.
Yeah, there's an author, Hugh Howley, who once he got big, he bought himself a yacht and just travels by sea and writes over the sea because he belongs in the sea. So you travel on the road, get to see all the beautiful sights. You don't like the scenery you have, you go.
Right, exactly.
So now it's getting springtime in Rhode Island. It's still no pleasure paradise yet, but if you want to see snow, you go see snow. You don't, you go down where you don't have to see snow.
Exactly.
That's a nice living there, my friend.
Yeah, well, it's life's all about trade-offs, right? It's like just leaving California, I was like, well, I'm 43, I'm single, I don't have any kids. and I'm moving from California back to Rhode Island. And I was just thinking about how 22 years ago I went from Rhode Island to California on a road moving out in a Ford. That was a Ford Escort. This is a Ford Fusion with no attachments, no single and no. So like not a lot has really changed. It's kind of, but that's kind of fun. That freedom of just being able to go wherever.
You had an adventure, and now you're back home.
Yeah. Although maybe not for long. We'll see.
Well, maybe not for long. But even Samwise at the end of his journey said, well, I'm back in Return of the King. Your journeys aren't over, of course, but at the same time, you had a nice adventure, and now you're looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very interesting. Now you say you like a lot of islands. Okay. Oh man, this may be a hard question for you to answer. What do you have a favorite island? I know that not all islands are the same. Do you have a favorite island? And then the second question is there an island you have never visited that you want to?
Well, most people don't realize that there's like 20 Pacific Island nations and territories, right? And so all these places I would like, in places like Palau and Nauru and Kiribati and Vanuatu and Wallis and Futuna and on and on, Solomon Islands, Tonga. I've never been to any of those places, but there's the Pacific. If you're an island lover, the Pacific Ocean is just your paradise, right? So I would love. I mean, I know Tahiti really well because that's where I did my PhD, and those are some of my favorite islands. The island of Moorea, which is next to Tahiti, where I lived for a year, just I mean, truly life changing. In that, when I got to that island, I thought I was going to go on and do like a career in scientific research, and by the time I left, I was like, no, I'm gonna focus on teaching and writing. So, it's a transformative place. And those islands in the South Pacific are, just without equal.
Without equal. Okay. So, and good thing. Did your love of islands start before you started writing for that magazine?
Oh, yeah. No, that goes back to,
okay.
Perhaps it's genetic. I mean, I'm half Filipino, so, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's always been there. Just like my love of the letter F and, a lot of my passions that go all the way back to my earliest memories seem involuntary. Like, I don't know why I liked the Iron Sheik. I just, liked him.
So you and Moana are singing by the seashore, how far I'll go.
Right.
Just taking those trips out there. That's awesome. I love that. So islands are your thing, and people don't know that you discovered, was it 17 new?
Yeah, and so it's fun. So that's actually, thank you for the reminder. I have to turn in the final version of my academic. So
yes, everyone's waiting to see that.
Right. Well, so I think I'll probably have more readers for the six pack than my forthcoming article in the Journal of Insect Systematics and Diversity, where I formally describe the 17 species of plant bugs you're mentioning, which I actually am naming one after Harrison Ford. So.
See, that's exciting. You get to name them too because you discovered them.
Yeah. So I've always been a Harrison fan. Okay, so let me ask you a question, Matt. Like, Indiana Jones or Han Solo? Who do you prefer? Like, instant reaction.
Oh no! As everyone knows, I'm the big Star Wars fan, but I'm going to go with Indy.
Really?
I do. I love him as Han Solo.
Wrong answer.
But I know that Harrison Ford hated playing that character, and he loved Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that's a little overstated. I think his.
You think he overstates that in interviews?
Well, he kind of came around when the Force.
I think he disdained it because he thought that was going to follow him throughout his career, and he wanted to distance himself from Han Solo.
Right.
You were probably right. But he always has wanted to return back to Indiana Jones. He's always loved those type stories.
Right. And then I think he came full circle with, a lot of these actors, right? Like whether it's Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford, or even like a Sylvester Stallone, like they go through this period in their mid to late career where they kind of are kind of on the downslope and they're disenchanted with things. And then they come full circle back to, okay, I'll play Han Solo again.
I'll play Han Solo. Bill Murray will go back to Ghostbusters.
Right.
You know, Michael Keaton will suit back up as Batman without Tim Burton. You
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, I've seen that, and I love that. And like, I don't know if you've Val Kilmer did a documentary a while back to where he thought it was beneath him to go to conventions. You know, he thought that's where actors go to die. But then he realized, no, these are fans that truly appreciate everything I did. And
Right.
these are the people I should be thanking every day. I should have been here earlier
Yeah.
rather than stay away. And I thought that, and I think people kind of realize, you know what, fans really do. It's not just a, you know, the money maker machine at Hollywood. Yeah, get you another sequel in here. We don't care what it is. I want to push it. It's the fans really care about that character and about the work that he put in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, and the same thing. So going, yeah, I liked how you steered off the topic of insects, which I'm still going to go back through here. How did insects become your first love?
Well, I wouldn't say they're my first love. They're maybe like my
professional.
Sixth, but
Okay.
okay. But they're it's still very much in love with them. It was the islands first. So when I went into grad school, my advisor said, well, you have a choice between doing your research in Hawaii or Tahiti. And I was like, oh, that's not a bad, it's not exactly,
not a bad
not
choice.
Exactly Sophie's choice, right? And
you picked a good, I should have picked your major.
And so, but she also studied insects and spiders. And so I said, okay, I always liked insects because you can see them up close. You can really, you can be right there. Like I never got, so many of my colleagues and friends love birds. And I would see my friends who were studying birds and all day they're just like this.
Yeah.
With their binoculars, and they end up with a sore neck, and you can never even get anywhere close to your study organism. So
where's an insect? They're right there.
Yeah.
You don't need the binoculars.
Right.
Then crawl on you.
Exactly.
Maybe bite you and you'll become a superhero.
Yeah.
It could be. I was in search of the next Spider-Man. There's your next title there. As you go ahead, I let all these bugs bite me to see. I got sick on one, and the other
what's going to be the word before pack? That's the question, right? The bug pack. I don't know. Got to find.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I came up with one, but I saw your latest post said it already. The backpack.
Oh,
but we'll have to come up with a pack name for it because everything's a trilogy, baby.
Right.
Good things come in threes. We got to have that.
If I do a trilogy, then hopefully I won't make the Crystal Skull mistake,
right? Well, it was Last Crusade was the third movie.
No, I know.
So Crystal Skull was the fourth movie, and still not that good. But then they continued to make Dial of Destiny for some reason.
I thought Dial of Destiny was better than Crystal Skull by far. No. I've upset you.
I don't know. They both have their faults. And like, again, you're going to come back. We're going to analyze Indiana Jones because I just gave my thoughts to someone on this, but it's I don't know. It's just Dial of Destiny had the right MacGuffin and just had the wrong supporting cast.
Okay.
You redo this really quick instead of this anonymous kid we've never seen before who's just as cool. No, bring back the guy who played Short Round. Yeah. He's a great actor. He does his own stunts. He can be your action guy. Right. And it makes sense that he would come back and take the Dial of Destiny to be some ancient Oriental. And that's why he needs Indy. And so he brings him out of retirement. And for goodness sake, bring Marion. Marion should have been in that. I love that they got married at the end. I like happy endings. I liked in Crystal Skull where he says, when Marion goes, what was wrong with all these women you dated? He said, well, one thing was wrong with them. They weren't you, honey. Right. That's a great line.
Yeah.
Only Harrison Ford can deliver that line.
The best line in the movie. Yeah.
It's the only good line in the movie, I think. But it's a good line. I was like, oh, I like that. And so there's a lot of things they could have removed. Because the girl that was in it, man, she actually tried to get him killed. Why are we supposed to love her? It's like they force these new characters on and say, you must love them. And I'm like, no, I don't love them. Why can't that be Marion? Why can't we replace it with good characters that we can move all the way through? I don't know. It seemed like if we wanted to say goodbye, like Did you know Indiana Jones always wanted to be in ancient Greece? Because I didn't. That's never been talked about ever. And it's like, no, you could have said Dial of Destiny. What do they want? Marion wants to go back and convince Mutt not to join the army. Come on, you set this up.
Right.
And then just like in Last Crusade, where Harrison's reaching for the Grail and he goes, Indiana, and says, turn, focus on me. He said, maybe Marion's reaching out for the Dial of Destiny and she's about to lose his grip. And he goes, Marion. And she looks at him. Maybe even make it a prequel sequel where you get younger actors to play a young Indy as he's working for Marion's dad and then falling in love for the first time. I mean, honest.
Or you could just de-age him. As they did.
And make him look like a video game character and give him old Harrison Ford voice.
Yeah, that was crazy.
No, you should have digitized his voice like they've done with Val Kilmer in Top Gun. There's ways to do this properly.
Right.
And I was thinking the whole time, I know what you're trying to go for here, but you got it all wrong. You can keep the premise, but change the outcome. And the movie writes itself. And I don't understand how Hollywood almost consistently gets it wrong with these properties.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not out here to say they raped my child or anything like that. I'm just saying do better. I think Cobra Kai and Top Gun have done great with the legacies. And I don't think anyone else has done it. I don't know if they can do it.
Right. Yeah.
I cringe every time I hear, hey, guess what? They're making a new, well, Ghostbusters was okay. I didn't mind Ghostbusters. That didn't bother me. That one was fine. But yeah. See now, you know movies too now. See, so there you go. There's another aspect of the good doctor that we all know and love. Well, I will end it here. But folks, please go out, check out the Six Pack, April 2nd, next Tuesday in bookstores everywhere. And it's an excellent book. You've done an excellent job. Bravo. Where can people find you?
They can find me at thebradpack.com, and they can find me on Instagram and Twitter at bradpackbooks. And I always like to hear from people when people write their notes and, here's what I thought of the book. I always try to respond to everything. So really appreciate when get that feedback. This is kind of the nerve-wracking but also fun part of the process where it's like, okay, finally it can, after these years of preparation and work, it's out there, and then see what people think and get the feedback. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for joining.
Thanks, Matt. It's been fun. A lot of fun talking to you. And you are wearing a Kelly Kapowski shirt, right?
Yeah. When in doubt, Kapowski out. I didn't know exactly what to wear tonight, and
I'm a huge Saved by the. I should have mentioned Saved by the Bell because did you watch the reboot?
Yes, I did.
I thought it was so good, and I was shocked it got canceled.
I'm not shocked it got canceled, but I loved it for probably a different reason than you did. But yeah, well, that's another one. I'll have to talk about that afterwards. But yeah, so look at this. He even knows Saved by the Bell. Look at this. It was either that or I was going to wear something from Super Friends. I have a bunch of old Super Friends t-shirts, Marvin and Wendy, the Wonder Twins, and Gleek. I thought there's so many geek shirts I can wear. And my wife's going, wait, this is the best-selling author, right? Yeah, you're going to wear a t-shirt for him. I said, yeah, I'm not going to wear my brown, beige, what would I have on? What's that shirt called? Now I can't think. Anyway, I said, I'm not going to wear something boring.
No, I appreciate Kapowski.
There you go. Went with Kapowski. But anyway, folks, check out the book, Six Pack. Check out Wax Pack 2. That's available right now. You can get a twofer read them back to back. So something magical happens when you read them back to back. Actually, you can form the covers together, and on the back, they form a secret message. I don't know what that is, but you guys are going to have to find out when you buy them. Hardback, baby. Don't get that digital stuff.
That's right.
Get yourself a nice hardback copy.
I like it.
All right. Thanks a lot. And folks, we will see you later.
Thank you.